Okay, we're rolling. Now this is a video I didn't plan to do, but sometimes these are the best kind of videos when you don't plan them, and I already did one this morning which was a bit funny, and this is more of a serious video, and this is based off of two things I've seen. Number one, Anwar Thinks. If you've not been subscribed to him, he had another channel before, Anwar Dawson, but now he's made a new channel, pro wrestling channel, and I'll put the link below, and if you haven't heard of him, subscribe to him and check him out. And the other thing that this is reacting off is his reaction off of Tna British Boot Camp. And I don't talk about TNA as much as I should or could, and I said I'm going to add some new things into this when it comes to pro wrestling and MMA. And MMA people, bear with me, I have a video planned for all of you tomorrow morning, and I am kind of in a way stepping on the Full Killer 99 territory because that's his kind of thing that he likes to do. So I watched this Tna British Boot Camp, and I've been hearing about it for a long time, and here are my thoughts. Coming into it, I was expecting something interesting to watch, and in a way it was interesting to watch. Now, when I think of these type of reality shows in this kind of genre, like pro wrestling, MMA, kickboxing, boxing, I'm thinking of things like The Contender, if that's what the show was called. I'm thinking of things like The Ultimate Fighter and Tough Enough, which were all very good shows and very interesting to watch and quite gritty, even though with reality shows there's a hint of arranging this and this to happen and putting things together to do this and this. The reactions and the way that people act towards the scenarios come off as organic. Season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter was a good example of this. The season of Tough Enough that came out in 2011 was a good example of this. And other shows like The Contender, good examples of this, because while you kind of knew with reality shows, it's kind of a bit scripted. The reactions and the things that you're getting from the people come off as organic. And watching the British Boot Camp, that was the biggest problem that I felt I had watching the show. On the one hand, it came off as The Only Way is Essex, the TNA version, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Now, I'd say it's a good thing because people who are not necessarily wrestling fans, but are more reality show-based fans that watch the Keeping Up with the Kardashians shows and watching things like The Only Way is Essex and Geordie Shore and Jersey Shore, they might be a bit more interested in this. But for wrestling fans myself, I'm not too sure if they're going to be into it in the same way that you would hope that they would be into it. And watching the episodes and what Anwar Dawson or Anwar Thinks touched upon, and this is how I felt watching it, was that the show the entire time, considering the build-up of this being this gritty British boot camp show, the show came off to me as these are the four wrestling characters. Spud, who I really like, the Blossom Twins, who I like, I've watched them in OVW when they were in 2009 and they came over, and Marty Scurll, and I like all four of them, and I'll tell you what, I wish and I hope that all four of them have long, prosperous careers. I'm not saying anything bad about them personally, but the show itself, everything came off as rigged, everything came off as scripted, everything came off as a tad bit work, a tad bit fake to me. And when they had Spud and Scurll having their little back and forth in the limo, that came across as a bit, scripted, and that would be perfect if this was actually on Impact Wrestling, and I think that would be a great idea for Impact Wrestling to do angles like that on that show. But this was supposed to be this reality boot camp show, and it came off as a bit worked and a bit forced to me. And I'm thinking to myself, if someone hit me, do you think I'm going to be reacting to them in the same way? I'd be a lot more emotional. I'd probably try and restrain myself if I've got a contract to achieve, but the reaction would be a lot different, and I felt that came off as a bit scripted. And when they were showing the in-ring workouts, again, Rollerball Rocco, one of the legends of the British sport of professional wrestling, along with Johnny Saint and British Bulldog and Dynamite Kid, one of the many legends and founding fathers of British wrestling in a lot of ways, as well as Billy Robson and Adrian Street. I was happy to see him on there. But again, it felt like he was somewhat being restrained with what he was saying, given lines to say, and the whole interaction with him and Spud, when Spud came late because he was hungover, came off. I think he was drinking apple juice the whole night, by the way. I know that gimmick very well. It came off as worked and scripted, and again, that would be fantastic. This material would be fantastic if they wanted to do a British version of Gut Check. I think it would be brilliant, and I would think it would be a great way to build up the Gut Check thing that they've been doing for the last year, and I think it would be a great way to build characters in there. But again, that's the thing, in a way I'm getting the characters, I'm not getting the real person. And that was one of the things I enjoyed about Tough Enough and about The Ultimate Fighter. Chris Lieben, you got the real person in season 1. Josh Koscheck actually is really like that to an extent, and how he is in season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter. All the personalities, the way they picked on Jason Thacker in season 1 of The Ultimate Fighter, the things that happened with Forrest Griffin, the things that happened with Lieben in that show, the things that happened with Rashad in season 2, the things with Bisping in season 3, it felt far more organic and genuine. Tough Enough, you had a lot more of a genuine feel and a lot more of an organic feel in the early 3 seasons, and then in the 5th season, because number 4 was on SmackDown, again, felt a lot more genuine, a lot more sincere, a lot more organic. You were getting more real reactions from how they were towards each other, and in this one, it just came off as plastic, fake, and see-through. And again, be brilliant if this was on the wrestling show, on Impact. I would love it, and I think there would be great all mini angles to set up. This isn't what it's supposed to be. And I'll tell you one of the other things that made it feel so scripted and plastic to me is when they had the people that were the non-wrestlers. They had Patrick Lennon, who I watch on Challenge TV, Wrestle Talk channel I'm subscribed to, and I recommend anyone that wants to know more about the British wrestling scene or just wants to see some interesting opinions, great channel to subscribe to. And I've seen Patrick Lennon on that channel, and he does a good job. When they did the PR aspect of the show, it felt like, to me, again, fake. Simon Lilsboy, who used to do podcasts for The Sun, he was on it, and you've got him telling them all these things, and I thought that was fine. Patrick Lennon comes on, and it just felt like Patrick Lennon was given a scripted line, and they kind of sat before the cameras are on and go, well, I'm going to say this, and this is what you're going to say, and that's how we're going to do it. And it came off like that when he said the thing about women in wrestling, because we all know that Lennon actually doesn't really think that, and we all know that the way that the question was presented came off as fake to me, and the way that they answered it, the Blossom Twins, came off as a bit like fake and scripted and naff and cheesy and corny, to the point where you could make a sandwich out of it. That's just how it felt. I felt Spud came off well as a wrestling character. He's got a lot of charisma, carries himself like a star. If you're going to put him on a show like this, then he really, to be honest, he should just be signed with TNA, period. He's good enough. You need to rebuild your X division. He'd be one of the names that I would bring in, as well as Prince Devitt and El Generico and some others. And I think that he would be better off just being on the show and building the character up that way. Scurll comes off as people I see at Electric Ballroom, like, all the time, and people I see in clubs all the time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing in the same way. And again, all the answers and the feedback that they were giving them just came off as fake, and it felt like the producer had told him, remember to say your line about Dixie Carter, I'll give you your cue. And then when they're doing the PR thing, and then he talks about, I wouldn't blame him, because I know a lot of men who would with Dixie Carter, but the way that was delivered came off as fake. And then when they tried to do the thing with Simon, the PR guy, trying to dress him down, again, it came off as very orchestrated and very fake, and it almost insults your intelligence, considering they've been trying to build this up as this gritty reality show that, is going to go right in the core of these personalities, and we're going to get to know who they really are. Again, I don't think it achieved that, but that's just 2 episodes. So I'm going to wrap up. This isn't a kind of video I plan to do. Oh, and another thing was, actually, just before I get onto it, the other thing that kind of made me feel like that was, after they had the confrontation with Spud and Marty, you got the reactions of the other two, the Blossom Twins, and again, it came off as scripted when they were giving their reactions of and it's like the other one looks at the other one to say, this is your line, you might want to say something now. It came off like that. If you're going to do a show like that, you have to know how to make it feel organic. And that to me was the biggest problem, and the thing I've said over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure if anyone in TNA is remotely aware of this, I'm sure they're going to be like, oh, well, what does he know? He don't know the business, or he wouldn't say that to our faces. Listen, hold on a second. Whoever's doing that, can they shut up? I'm trying to do a video here. Right, back to what I was saying. Look, here's the thing. You could bring all four of them here, and respectfully, I'd say the same thing. And not to be nasty, and I'm not tearing them down personally. The way that the show came across, if this was gut check, perfect. If this is supposed to be a reality show, we need something more. We want the meat and potatoes. We want to know more about the real persons and how they had to get from this part to this part to this part. And that would create more of an emotional investment, in my opinion. And when you create emotional investment, you draw money. Work for the Ultimate Fighter. Look at the stars they made out there. Look at the way they re-energized people's careers. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right now. Let you write some comments. Tell me what you think. Did anyone else watch this show? How would you compare it to other shows like The Ultimate Fighter and Tough Enough? And other reality shows that you've watched? Reality shows... Hold on a second. Once again, whoever this is beeping their horn, can they... Losing my focus here. Mum might be watching. She might hear my language, so I need to be careful. Whoever has watched the show, tell me what they think. And comparing it to other shows, how did you feel? I felt that, well, I will give them this. I liked the in-ring thing that they did. I thought they came off well. But again, we know that this is supposed to be part of the show. And it felt like everyone, the non-P wrestlers and everybody else involved, it was like they were all playing characters. And I did enjoy the in-ring promo at the Progress Wrestling show. And a friend of mine was down there, and I'll say hello to him, by the way. He just messaged me saying that he was there a couple months ago. Just hello, whoever you are. I'm going to stop, as I've said, for the 5th time now. You write comments. Tell me what you think. Comment, rate. There's that wonderful little button up the top called subscribe. Check the previous video that I did on life lessons that I learned in pro wrestling. It's a very, very bizarre way of looking at life, if you want to call it that. I've got one on MMA and life lessons if you want me to do that, and I'll gladly do that. Going to do another video probably tomorrow, and that will be an MMA one, so bear with me, MMA fans. Be patient. I'm coming to you, don't you worry. And I am going to call it quits. Take care. Bye.